Hi there, it's Neil Tyson from Rightway Compliance, and having spoken to Becky about this program that she's put together for the digital mental health piece, I wanted to talk to you particularly around an area that comes up in my work quite a lot, which is around cybercrime and data theft, but also people being held to ransom or being scammed or having fraud committed against them in lots of different ways. Why is that particularly relevant in this instance? Well, we know that in general, people who are in a vulnerable state are much more susceptible to fraud or to being scammed. And the criminals know that, and therefore the criminals are attracted to vulnerable people in order to commit their fraud and their scams. So if you're in a vulnerable state, you're at a heightened risk from this type of criminality. And not just because you're more likely to be susceptible to the con, but actually your data might be more valuable to the criminals because they may then sell that data on to other criminals who might commit fraud against you. But equally, there may be something in the information that you divulge to the criminals which you don't want to be broadcast, and they may hold people to ransom, threatening to release that information circulated to friends, family, or the wider world, unless the victim pays a ransom fee. So there's a number of ways that people who are in a vulnerable state could be much more attractive to the criminals. So what I wanted to do, as I say, is look at, in particular, how criminals could steal data or worse without actually hacking into your system. And the first bit I want to talk about from that perspective is the idea of social engineering. So the part of the reason why vulnerable people are much more likely to be susceptible to scams is that the criminals will generally try to build up rapport, build up trust with their victim. And those of us that may be going through a vulnerable state for whatever reason are maybe more likely to kind of be looking for answers, looking for people to offer them help, assist them in some way, and therefore, because they're looking for that help, that then puts them in a heightened state where they may be more trusting of people who show some sympathy to their situation, or, as I say, who appear to be able to help them. And one way that actually they can do this social engineering, building trust, building rapport, through lots of different ways, but through social the kind of social sites such as Facebook, things like that, are where a lot of these things are prevalent. And one thing I particularly wanted to talk about was these copy and paste type scams. And this is a typical example that I've put on here. Sometimes these are not necessarily scams. They can be done for genuine purposes, but actually 9 times out of 10, they can be used as a way of harvesting data. And usually what happens is there's a post, nobody really knows the origin of the post, who posted it first, but it gets copy and pasted and shared around. The reason why they want you to copy and paste it rather than just share it is that it then becomes much easier. Firstly, it's more likely to reach a broader audience doing it that way, because just one post being shared, there might be restrictions on who you're sharing that with, friends-wise, and therefore might get a limited range in terms of being shared out. If you copy and paste it, you create a new post, and that's much more prevalent, much easier for that to spread across Facebook, across the internet. But it also makes it much easier for whoever has started that post to then identify individuals who have copy and pasted it. And I'll show you how they do that. So these copy and paste scams can be very easy, and they're usually pulling at heartstrings, you know, kind of, or making you feel bad if you don't engage, if you don't copy and paste. And the other part of copy and pasting is there'll be usually some phraseology in there which they can then use subsequently to identify who has actually shared that post. And if we come on to the next slide, we can show that. So this is the copy and paste post that that has been put out there. All I've done is put that into a simple Google search for Facebook site, just an element of that phraseology, and you can see, you know, in terms of that, came back with 50,000 results of people who have copy and pasted that into their into their profiles. And what I now have is, if I'm a scammer, a list of those 50,000 people who have copied and pasted it. So what can I then do with that information? Well, I can then maybe target those individuals with other information, maybe false information. I can target you with friend requests, or I can target you with potential offers of support. You know, what I've done is I've created for myself a short list of people who might be susceptible to being approached further around this subject. So I've got a much more targeted audience from which I can now really focus some attention on to see who within this group of 50,000 people might be, you know, looking for answers that I might be able to target, maybe even send through some malicious links to fake websites. And that's the next bit that I want to come on to, is that we've seen a huge uptake in terms of fake websites. This is happening in the financial world in terms of investments, but it's also happening in the healthcare sector. And they're not necessarily always going to be as obvious as this example of a fake White House website. That, although, you know, clearly some people might get taken in by something like this, but we've seen very good recreations of genuine websites. So this might look like a genuine NHS website if you're in the UK, or a GP surgery perhaps, or some kind of health care clinic. All of those websites could get cloned and fake websites put out there in order to, again, maybe harvest details from individuals who are looking for help or assistance in some way. And maybe through that, they can then encourage you to enter further details, further information in terms of what you're seeking help for, to, again, either sell that information on or use it against you in some way. But again, if I'm a criminal looking to harvest information, what better way of doing that by trying to attract people to my fake site? And we've also seen people set themselves up as fake doctors, even been able to get employment in mainstream healthcare facilities through fake qualifications, identity theft, and things like that. So again, rather than this idea of them having to hack into your system, why not set yourself up as a fake doctor, fake clinic, and get people, the vulnerable people, to come to you and give you their details willingly? Yeah. Could there be situations where people then get tempted in and actually have counselling sessions with fake psychiatrists, fake clinicians in some way. What damage could that do? In this particular case, this fake doctor managed to treat 164 patients, including giving them medical advice and even suggesting different forms of medication, self-help medication that they could that they could try. So all kinds of implications in terms of how the criminals could target vulnerable individuals, and particularly those that are maybe going it through a particularly vulnerable state, through, as I say, through social engineering, through Facebook tricks, through building trust and rapport, through social media, through spreading fake news through social media, trying to garner an audience that they may then be able to target in different ways. Or, as I say, setting yourself up as a clinician or as a clinic in order to attract people in and divulge that information. So just a couple of ways that it kind of sprung to my mind in terms of the discussions, which I thought might be useful and interesting to share with you. And it'd be great to kind of get your thoughts around some of those issues that that I've raised. And if you want to reach out to me, there's some of the contact details on there, and further details can be circulated to you. But it would be great just to have that debate and discussion in terms of how the criminals can steal data without hacking your system. Hope that's been of interest. Thanks. Enjoy the rest of the sessions. Bye.